Okay, you want to choose someone, Amy?
Yeah, how about Brian?
Hi there, my name is Brian and I'm a community member. Marcia? Or Marcia, I'm sorry.
Hey everyone, that's okay. It's Marcia Perez here. I'm the chair of the Racial Equity Subcommittee. And my view is different. Oh, there we go. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late. I'm not sure who else is gone. If somebody wants
Kia, I think Kia could go if Kia.
Good evening, everyone. Kia Myers-Dugan, PCCEP member, and leading up the Truth and Reconciliation Planning Subcommittee.
And who do you want to choose?
Lakiana. I just saw him pop up.
Hey everyone. Lakiana Drury, PCCEP alternate co-chair, member of the Racial Equity Subcommittee. And yeah, glad to be here. I don't know who hasn't gone,
Okay.
so.
Theo?
Hello, everyone. Thank you all for being here. My name is Theo Lada. I'm PCCEP staff. Claudia.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Claudia, and I am the project assistant.
Mary
Yeah,
Claire.
Victoria's here too.
Yes. Vadim, why don't you go next? And then.
Thanks. Hey, everybody. Vadim Mazursky. I guess I'm chair of the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee. Good to see everybody virtually. Glad you made it into the new year. And I will pass it along to Jared if you're online.
I am online. Thanks, Vadim. Jared Hager, he, him. I'm with the Department of Justice here in my role as monitor of the settlement agreement. And I will pass it to Dr. Silver, Rochelle.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Silver. I'm a member of the community and a member of the Mental Health Alliance. And I don't know who hasn't spoken.
Or Mary Claire could be next.
Hi there, Mary Claire Buckley, Portland Police Bureau, DOJ Compliance.
And Barb?
Hi, I'm Barb. I'm sharing a computer with Amy. I'm on the Behavioral Health Subcommittee, and I'm a community member.
Okay, and then Jason, I think we have on the line. Mental Health Board. I don't know. Mental Health Association. Is that you, Jason?
Oh, sorry. It's Jason with the Mental Health Association of Portland, Mental Health Alliance. I'm a community member.
And Ross, I think you're the last.
Hey, everyone. Ross Caldwell, Independent Police Review.
Thanks, everyone. So we're going to just jump right into our agenda. We've got a lot of items.
Oh, well, they missed
Philip as well, and Philip.
Oh, sorry, Philip.
Oh, hello. My name is Philip, and I'm a faggot.
Thank you, Philip. Who else? Did you say there's anyone else, Theo?
Goodbye, Philip.
Oh, Barbara, I think.
Barb, we got. Oh, Barbara. Barbara, yes.
Barbara Boshinsky, Portland Cop Watch.
And then Elliot, could I interject
Sure.
real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna do the first item anyway. So, I recognizing now that I sent Claudia I sent that message and it sort of said some items were done items. So there's a few things I think we might want to table for time's sake for next month's meeting, including the alternate positions and the coalition of advisory groups, and then coming back to that next month, if that's okay with you all, just because they're not time sensitive and the rest of the stuff has a little bit of a timeline with it. So with that being said, we'll just sort of jump right into the first one, which should be titled differently too. The way I sent the email was weird, so apologies. It's focused on it's really just a quick update then that we are working currently to get we're trying to figure out the best way to move forward with the PPA negotiations and trying to see if PCCEP can have a seat at that table. And it's a request we initially had in the codification draft, and then that was removed from the codification after voted on. But we are still sort of advocating for that in sort of communicating with the mayor's office about it and other city council members' offices. And so we don't have an update, but things are really moving fast there because they have the negotiations starting tomorrow from the city of Portland side of it. Still not 100% sure how all of that works. It's very technical, but basically just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of that. We're working on it. And then once we do know sort of what's happening there, we will have to figure out if we need to convene a special meeting to talk about it, because it does have some complexity to it. But just wanted to make that aware to everyone that we do have the meeting. It's not us, but the negotiations start tomorrow, and there's a Zoom link for it that was posted by Commissioner Hardesty's office on Twitter. And if you can't see it there, it's also available. We can send it to you as well. But this one's open to the public because the city of Portland's leading it, if that's the right terminology to use. And that's all in that specific item. Apologies.
Could I actually add something on that?
Oh, please.
Which is that there is a space, or there was a few days ago, because the mayor has a slot at the negotiating table, but that was occupied by the chief of staff who left. And so we were trying to see whether we could take that spot. And that's sort of where it ended with the negotiation. Obviously, anyone from the public can sit in tomorrow. But what we really want is a seat to be able to sit in on the other half of the meetings that the PPA does. And so
and also having like a voice at that table rather than just like watching it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see where that stands. But I encourage members of PCCEP, if they can attend tomorrow, to attend as observers to see what is up with that. That's it.
Do you want to lead this part then, just because I also wasn't at that first meeting?
Sure. This is the Core Patrol.
No, sorry, it's the Truth and Reconciliation.
Truth and Reconciliation. Yeah. So let me just say we had the first Truth and Reconciliation Commission or committee meeting, and started talking about some logistics. At the end of that meeting, we chose, or Kia volunteered to be the chair of that committee. And so why don't I turn it over to her for updates on where we are in that process. Kia.
Thanks, Elliot. So just for full clarity and transparency, this is a Truth and Reconciliation Planning Subcommittee. So we're not the actual commission. What we're doing is formulating a group of people, which we've been getting some commitments from the community and from organizations across the city, of this is going to be a group that is going to develop and formulate kind of the vision and recommendations for how this Truth and Reconciliation Commission should flow, what the timeline is, how to select members, what our areas of focus will be, what communities or what community issues we're going to focus on, et cetera. So that is what we are working on. So as Elliot said, we had a meeting last week just to kind of kick it off and gauge interest and start extending invites to other community members. And so that is where we are right now. The next meeting where we will actually start kicking off the discussion and the planning and the visioning to make a recommendation to the mayor and the city council, that will take place next Monday, January 18th at 9 a.m. And that information just went out. And I see Claudia just put that in the chat. Thank you, Claudia.
Just
so that's where we're at right now.
Sorry, it's a major holiday on Monday, the 18th.
Yes, we are aware, Amy, and that was the committee group that was a part of that meeting felt that MLK Day was a great and appropriate day to kick off the discussion.
Awesome.
Thanks for raising that point, though, Amy. And thank you, Kia, for taking on that role of leading it. We are doing community outreach and divided up tasks of people to contact. And I know Kia has been on top of it because she sent Taji and I and Anne an email. So I'm sure we will have a more representative group at that next meeting. And in terms of the sort of, if their press is very interested in this, because Kia is leading this effort, you know, I suggested that Kia be the main contact person for the press to talk to the press about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
And I will say I have received a few requests. And so what I have asked everyone is just hold off, because essentially there's not much to share. So I've asked them to, if they're interested, to join the meeting next Monday, and then I'd be happy to follow up with them afterwards.
Great. Are there any comments from other PCCEP members, questions, or from the public about this commission or our role in it?
Yeah, I have one question. Will the subject matter of people with mental illness also be included in this development?
This is what has to be decided by this group. I personally am an advocate for that to happen, and I reached out to Jason, who's on the call, and encouraged him or someone else from the Mental Health Association to be part of it. But that's precisely what the kind of thing the group is going to decide.
Thank you, Elliot.
Any other comments, questions? All right, well, we will be hearing much more about the Truth and Reconciliation Commission going forward, and I'll turn it over to Taji for the next item.
Well, thank you, Elliot. So this part is about the Court Patrol services and the sort of task we've taken on from the mayor's office on supporting the community engagement aspect of it. So basically they have something, they have a app. Well, we're supposed to share all the details on that, right? There's nothing like I'm supposed to omit or anything. I don't think there is really. I don't know why there would be, because the presentation was given to everyone. So yeah, there's the talk thing of, what is it, Map app, I believe, is going to be released this Friday, and the 15th. And it will be open, I believe, until February 12th. And I believe we met yesterday to check in and see how things are going, and we were discussing, you know, specific topics related to like how do we best ensure, like, when we get this new information that we, you know, analyze it and take it into account and then formulate it into actual recommendations for City Council in a, you know, meaningful way, because we want to be prepared for either end of the situation, where we could have 100 responses and that's something we could get through, versus we could also get, you know, thousands upon thousands of responses, which might be more difficult. So we started discussing that. We don't have necessarily a definitive plan in mind, but that we did say that we would want support either way from the mayor's office and our liaison, Asena, in that work, so that we can ensure no one's, you know, inundated with one piece of it or at all too much. So we'll make it very like even that way. So then other pieces there is that we are working to hire an analyst on a contract basis to support some data analyzation for the between BOIC and PPB, specifically use of force data as it relates to the Court Patrol and our recommendations moving forward. So that's sort of in the works, but we don't have a contractor yet, and I don't know the timeline exactly on that, unless Theo has maybe an idea of that.
It can certainly be quicker, but I think the PCCEP needs to come to a like an agreement on what is important in somebody or a group of people that are going to do the data analysis. If it's somebody from, I don't like the phrase, but I'll use it just for brevity, BIPOC communities, then it can be quicker because it can be a sole source But if we're just going to get 3 estimates, it's going to take much longer, but it's going to take a couple months no matter what.
Yeah, I think, so we need to make the definitive decision as a steering committee, I believe, whether or not we want to have hire that analyst. So I'll raise that. Well, I want to raise that in a second. I also want to just mention the other part of this first, and then we can discuss both of the points. We also were discussing holding a town hall in February before the, well, it would be in between the period of February 12th to March 19th, really, and it would be to get information from other, well, current alternatives available to Core Patrol, which includes Clean and Safe, Portland Street Response, and other, local entities like Sunshine Division, because I think that hearing from those communities and understanding best what sort of support they could use might be really helpful for this, work in general, and also for our recommendations before we present them in March. So those things are happening, and I really want to open it up and get a question. Anne, you were wondering something?
Yes. Thank you. Are you done? I didn't want to interrupt.
No, yeah, that was it. I'm sorry.
Okay. We can also have other groups come, not just the ones listed, right? Mm-hmm. And will we be outreaching to them, or how would they know?
Yeah, I think we discussed just raising that right now, raising the question of the town hall and discussing it. So once we sort of made a decision on whether or not, this was we suggest raising a town hall, but now we sort of want to bring it to the rest of the steering committee. And if it does happen,
his dick.
If it does happen, then we could probably just have it happen with whoever we want there. It doesn't necessarily matter. Sorry, I got distracted by the situation. Yeah, Elliot.
About that, everyone, they've been removed. They kept changing their name.
Yeah, it's just good sign. They're up to no good. So yeah, well, first of all, I want to just put a pin that we need to turn it over to Kia, who's going to tell us about a conversation about the MAP app. But yes. In terms of reaching out, I've been reaching out individually to various community members, because the thing is that community members have already been working on alternatives, and we're really going to have to rely on those people to come to PCCEP with developed ideas for us to then see if, which ones we want to adopt as part of our recommendations. So that, I think we need to be all work on this about reaching out and getting people to participate in the MAP app when it's launched on Friday. So through your networks, social media, and otherwise, do that, and then trying to get people to the town hall, where we'll have a more sort of focused work groups to look at what exists and alternatives. But I think this is a very exciting possibility for PCCEP to really intervene and rethink public safety and make recommendations to the city council. So the other thing is, we have this committee working on the TRC that Kia is chairing. Taji and I, as co-chairs, have, I think, decided to take this on. Core Patrol Services, not exclusively, but to kind of lead this effort in terms of sort of organizing that town hall. So I think we could do it through the steering committee. I don't think we should set up another subcommittee on this, because there are too many committees already. But just in terms of sort of structure and pushing the ball forward, that's sort of how we thought we could move forward. But I want to turn it to Kia, who wanted to talk about the MAP app.
Yeah, really the only other ad, because I wasn't aware that you all had had a meeting with Sam yesterday regarding this. So the only outstanding item is that Sam and Asena said that media is already interested in talking to someone about this initiative. And so I asked them to draft, after they had clarified how this tool is actually going to work, they have drafted talking points and just kind of an information sheet that I had asked them to do. And so they're just looking, and I'm happy to step out of this. Like I said, I didn't know what other meetings were happening, but they just want to know point people from PCCEP who will be the press contact for this particular initiative. And like I said, I will happily send over the document that Sam sent me last night as prep, and he and Asena also offered up to help prep us in advance of any interviews as well.
Yeah, so I think Elliot talked with OPB or Oregonian or someone about the TRC, but regarding the court patrol, no one necessarily has said and about who the point person is on that, and I'm fine doing it if that is needed, and I can, that's not a problem. And if there was anyone else who wanted to also do it, but I'm fine doing it. And I'll reach out, and I know I'll reach out to Asena and Sam about that. So thank you for bringing that up. I also know that they were going to send a one-pager, and I don't know if they sent it just to you or if I should just reach out and get it from them.
I can, like I said, I was not aware of what was happening on the outskirts, and this came out of me getting clarity on the tool because I was concerned that it was a community engagement tool, and it's more, as you've seen, it's a comment and suggestion collector. So once that had come into play, then that's when Sam had said, oh, and by the way, media is interested in talking to us. And so I said that I would talk to everyone, but if they could develop a one-pager with talking points so that we can prep and give ourselves some background in advance of those conversations. So I can share that with you and loop you in on my email with Sam and Asena and take it from there.
And Elliot and Taji, Vadim, if I can make just a quick ask of y'all. A lot of this information is really kind of new, and the fact that y'all want to keep it within the steering committee is good and all that, but can y'all please just disseminate the information, like if you've had meetings with the mayor's staff about the reimagining, the police services, let the rest of PCCEP know what those meetings entail. I think that's been like a previous kind of standard for us, and it's just I've been out of the loop for a couple of weeks, and it seems like there's been a lot of information that's been passed along, and would love to hear about it. And then a subset of that is that the Settlement and Policy Subcommittee has been working on the PS3 recommendation, which I think Elliot, you mentioned earlier as one of the topics you want to discuss, but that's already kind of in the works, and would love to continue working on that in partnership with y'all. When it comes to reimagining police services, I think there's going to be a pretty robust recommendation along those lines coming out. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely, Vadim, and apologies. The check-ins are sparse and far and few in between, like happening all the time. So apologies for not sending recently meeting notes on those. Apologies. I also want to.
Can I ask just one thing? Can I interject one thing?
Yeah.
Too? Would it be possible for people who want to get involved in these things to reach out if in fact, Taji, you're the point person on something that people could connect with you and get the information, or with Elliot on, just so that I agree with the Vadim, so that we all kind of know what's happening, but also giving people an opportunity to, to be a part of something that we're working on, I think is important. And the transparency, we've talked about it before, is real important. And I know things are happening really quickly, but.
I agree, Anne. And I think, I don't mean to say that like Taji and I are going to be the only people doing this. I just think for each effort, it's good to have 1 or 2 point people to move the ball forward. But definitely, what we will need to have is sort of bringing as many PCCEP people, because this effort, I think, will touch on all the subcommittees and have recommendations be, brought from all these people, as well as when we construct this town hall. So yes, we will update people. The meeting we had was just yesterday.
Taji, I have a question for you real quick. What is the expected outcomes of all this work we're doing? Like, what do we hope to achieve? And will the comments from the community turn into something in print? Because I don't think I've ever seen the community comments end up like in a summary.
So there hasn't been any community comment gathering yet, and once they've done it, and once the app launches that allows the comments to be gathered, that'll be one of the few ways that that comments and information and sort of things that will lead to recommendations for City Council will come together. So it's a combination of the map app along with anyone who reaches out to the City Council's offices that'll be forwarded to us, to us to sort of aggregate, and then that'll lead to recommendations that are not just given as standard recommendations, but this will be sort of put up at City Council as actual votes, but there'll be conversations leading up to that to ensure that we're getting the right information. So so the meetings we have so far has not been like making any of those decisions. It's more about them telling us updates on things. And so we're going to make sure we can just better share that with folks moving forward, of course. And there was no other, other thing I wanted to mention. There has already been a lot of work to gather stuff from the community. And so we really are trying to not, reinvent the wheel or anything like that. So we're going to be working with Hardesty's office to learn about what they did with their listening sessions they held back in the summer. And there was also a community survey held last year, not by PCCEP, but by this, I believe, Civic Life or OEHR, I could be wrong. Someone mentioned it, not me. But both of those things have really important value we could add to these recommendations. And so we're trying to work collaboratively with already established work that's been done on this specific topic.
Well, maybe I wasn't clear. I was kind of referring to all the work we as PCCEP have done in gathering community input. It'd be nice if we could put out some sort of summary, maybe, once a month or something, about what we've discovered the community is saying. Not what the community is doing, what is PCCEP doing to enhance the participation of folks who take their time to come. That's what I'm trying to get across. Where is our end result of everything we've been doing?
I think the quarterly report is built in service a little bit of that, Amy. I think the quarterly report that's going to be coming out from Taji and Elliot that they've been working on is going to be of service a little bit in terms of a deliverable.
Sorry, I was also reading the comments. So
Okay.
Can I interject one or ask one question, and then we can move on? I want to come back to when things are decided as to who's going to work on something. I'm wondering if in the future we can say this is happening, who would like to participate in it? Because I don't want to leave anyone out that might want to. And it just felt a little different to say that, well, we've decided we're going to be the ones having these meetings and putting this information together. No offense to either of you, but I know that there's other people that might want to participate that hearing that would say, oh, okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to do that. So just moving forward, if we can be a little more for instance, maybe Kia would want to be involved or somebody else. I'm just throwing out names. And when we say, well, we've already decided we're going to be the point people on this, that kind of feels exclusionary.
Are you talking about when I was volunteering to take the point on this specific on corporate role? Because I thought I was being the media contact for that.
Yeah, I think I said what had happened for a couple of 2-3 months now. Sam Diaz reached out to me as co-chair, and he said the Core Patrol Services thing is happening. So I have been meeting with him and have an interest in it. So I guess took on that work, and then Taji, when he became co-chair, also became involved in that work. but you're right. I mean, in terms of opening it up, you know, if other people want to lead it, we could have that conversation, and that gets to the larger conversation I want to have about electing the committee chairs, which we sometimes do. We've done for some committees, and for other committees we've not done. This is not a committee, so it's a little harder to maybe figure out a decision-making process for doing that. But I'm happy to open it up if there are, you know, people who want to volunteer to do that. We could have an election at the full board meeting.
Now that I'm thinking about it, we should maybe discuss how, because I think I'm just imagining like in February when we have to start, you know, going through this and sifting through this information that we'd gather, along with like pulling other stuff that's already been done. I'm thinking it might be helpful to do another ad hoc committee, and they meet more frequently, obviously, probably, to do this, and it'd be like probably till May when this is done. Now that I'm just thinking about it, because it does sound like we were trying to be exclusionary and we really weren't. It was more of like there was not an official like thing for this to fall under really, and it was more of like we were just communicating with the mayor's liaison and also the mayor's advisors who presented at the December meeting. So like I think it might be helpful to just do an ad hoc so there's some sort of established place, and then know that anyone can go to that, and that it'll be frequent meetings that will probably have to happen weekly once stuff comes out. I don't know how other people feel about that.
I like that. I like that idea.
Lakiana, yeah, what's up?
Yeah, I think that's a good role for Ann to play as secretary, is just helping make sure that the workload spread out and people are included. It seems that things have moved really fast in the last month, and so just making sure that people are in the loop, especially other members who maybe aren't at steering committees and things of that nature, just to make sure that they're a part of it. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm just like, I know there's been several new members added, and so it just seems like there's a lot of folks, and just making sure people are in the loop of decisions that are being made, and that we're keeping a constant eye on who's being able to participate in all these things.
Definitely. And I think we'll probably then just add that to the January agenda if we need to vote on it at that point, or we can do it without having to make a vote on it again, like the TRC planning subcommittee. Does anyone have any specific thoughts on this as of now? I'm thinking it might just make sense to do it as an agenda item in the January meeting, and we just sort of move from there because it won't even start until February. So it might just make sense to do it that way.
What exactly are we voting on?
We're not voting anything. Oh, if we were to add it to the
January?
agenda in January, yeah, it would be to establish the ad hoc, but we don't need to have the vote. I just didn't know if it was. Maybe then it would offer up anyone at that January meeting who wanted to go to that ad hoc to know that it's happening, so they can, so it's not something that happens here and not everyone's here, so they don't know it's happening. So I don't know.
I think it might be helpful to talk about kind of different areas that people are working on, and then have the opportunity for people to participate if they want to. I just think that we want to include as many people in this process in our work as possible. And as Lakiana said, we have new members, and we want to definitely, just create space for everyone. And we want to do that so that people feel included. Also, another idea, and I know someone's brought it up, but meetings, we can often share the notes from our meetings with PCCEP members. And I've done that a few times in some of the meetings that I've been to. No one responds, but I just think it's better to have more information than not. So that's something that people could consider as well. That's all.
So I'll write something up
Question,
about
Theo, is there a reason why these meetings aren't on our monthly calendar? Like, can they be updated to be added? Because the calendar is pretty cool because everyone can use it and it's got the agendas and it links, you know, on the PCEP website.
Except I think, Amy, the meeting that Taji and I attended was a meeting that Sam Diaz called, and it was not like an open meeting for everyone. It was just a meeting with like a couple of people.
Sorry, I wasn't talking about that meeting. I'm talking about the other meetings where you want public to come.
Oh yeah, those
committees or subcommittees. You know what I'm saying? That's
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
about.
The TRC meeting was
Yeah.
publicized, and that's, I think, Taji's recommendation to create an ad hoc committee. Then it would be part of our structure, and
Yeah,
so
because the calendar's really good. It's got good links. It's easy to use, and I think if we direct people to the website, they can start reading and maybe learning more at PCEP's website. That's how you develop better communication. Is put it all in one place if possible. So thank you. Yeah, that was my question.
Okay, we're approaching the 6:10. I almost said 8:10. The 6:10. So we might want to. I think we should add an agenda item, which will be to present at the not present, but it will be to vote on it at January. I'm gonna go ahead and write a very thorough email that explains what's happened so far, so no one is unaware of anything leading up to the January meeting, so I don't have to explain it at the January meeting. So I'll get that out, probably not before the end of the week, but definitely before the January meeting. So with that
thanks, Taji, and thanks, Elliot. I totally agree with what Ann said as well. I appreciate y'all's feedback and responsiveness to that. You know, obviously the people have been working on this for a long time, and Ann's been part of this effort as well. So I'm sure we'd all like to continue doing that work with everybody else in a group, subcommittee, or ad hoc, or whatever it might be. So thanks for being receptive to all that, everybody.
Definitely. Thank you all for important feedback. I think, Elliot, do you want to go from here? We can, like I said, I think we should save the 2 middle items and just go to the budget and then go from there.
Yeah, well, I did want to use the talk about the alternates to talk about this proposal, which I have, which is gets to the question that Anne raised about leadership.
The steering committee stuff?
Yeah, so how leadership is decided. So, you know, since I've been on PCEP, there was 2 Novembers ago an election when Patrick left and Amy took over the behavioral health subcommittee, or to lead that. I was aware of this because in the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, we asked for volunteers. Kia graciously volunteered, and I think everyone was enthusiastic and excited for her to lead that effort. But I think we need to have a mechanism for leaders of these committees to be voted on by the full board, and that in that way see if there is to give them a mandate, 1, by the whole PCEP, and 2, to see if like Ann's asking, are there other people who want to take on that role? And I think we also have to think about, like we have with the officer roles, like, is it a yearly thing where, you know, every year in November we vote on committee chairs, and if there's one person, you know, great. If there are a couple, then we actually need to have a vote. So that's my proposal, and I would say, given that we haven't done it in a year for any of the subcommittees that I know of, that we would in January, people would propose, you know, who are currently doing it would propose their names and see if there are other people, and if there's a competition, then have a vote. If not, then, you know, by unanimous acclamation, they will be selected for that role. So that's my proposal, that we vote on it or we bring it up for a vote in January.
So Elliot, two points about that. One is, I don't remember, other than for the mental health subcommittee, behavioral health subcommittee, us ever voting on any chair of the committee as a full PCEP. Most PCEP people don't attend the subcommittees other than the ones they're involved in. So I'm not sure how they have knowledge of what's going on in those committees, or who's been doing the work, or who's, putting in the time and effort. And the second thing is this been like vetted at all with anybody as far as putting it up for a vote in front of all people for all subcommittees at the same time? Because I think that's going to obviously surprise people who are not at the steering committee, but also people will obviously have to decide what they need to do before the January meeting with respect to all that.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
if you can cover the first point mainly, it's not in the bylaws and it's not anything at all. So I'm just wondering what's engendering the fact that right now we're going to vote for all the subcommittees, who's chairing them.
Well, it's a proposal, and it came out of the fact that at the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, we just kind of, Kia offered, and since she was the only one, she was chosen, and I think that's great. But then I was aware that we had a vote for Amy's position, and I think what's likely to happen, because as you say, Vadim, like most people don't go to all the subcommittee meetings, is that PCEP members will just defer to the people who do go to the subcommittee meetings. My guess is there's not going to be great competition for this, but just in terms of having a process of deciding on leadership in a democratic fashion, I thought it would be a good new step to implement. So we have Anne and then Lakiana.
I agree with this idea. I know that for the officer positions, we vote every November, and I don't know if it needs to be a yearly thing, but I think it gives people the opportunity to, or new people to participate in leadership roles, or just any of us that want to possibly be a chair of a subcommittee. So I agree with it. I don't really see a downside on it.
Kriana?
I have a clarifying question and then a thought. So the idea is to move the election of subcommittee members to the full PCEP meeting, do it once a year, and have every PCEP member vote on them, and then possibly have some of them defer if they're not in that subcommittee. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, not in other words, like, I've never been to the mental health subcommittee. So if people who've been active in the mental health subcommittee say, Amy wants to do it, she's great, I'm going to defer to that. I'm not going to say, no, she's not, like that is, I think PCEP members in general will defer to the people who've been active. But let's say there are two people on a committee who want to take leadership. How is that decision made? And I think that's where the fuller PCEP could be empowered with the information from the people who've been active on that committee to make that decision. Amy?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a thought on that. I'm in favor of keeping things how they are. We haven't had any challenges with it. I think maybe a little bit of an outline of the process, like here's how it functions. But it doesn't seem to make sense to have people voting on something that they're really not aware of. Like I wouldn't have any context for voting on the other subcommittees, and it wouldn't make sense to defer my vote or even have it brought up. I think that each subcommittee kind of operates on their own wavelength, and it seemed to work right now. We haven't had disagreements or things of that nature, and I think part of it that it's also allows each subcommittee to kind of have some autonomy to kind of figure out themselves. Each one works in a slightly different way, and I think to try and streamline it into a process and have people weighing in that aren't a part of it seems like it would complicate and slow things down. Just my 2 cents.
That's a good point, Lockhannah. How about if there was a process that subcommittees themselves had to vote? I just think there should be some process for choosing leaders.
Yeah, I think that there could be some
leaders.
recommendations. It seems that the subcommittees it's been a member. It's always been a member. I don't know if we want to change that. I think it's good to have a PCEP member be the chair of it. And it seems like they've just they've come up. And so maybe that there could be a process where they would vote on it. Yeah, but I would do it individual to the subcommittees themselves. Like you would attend that subcommittee, and it could just kind of go on a basis. Like sometimes it's yearly, sometimes it's not. It's just kind of worked how it's worked, and it seems to work. But there is the potential like it could not work in some instances, and so maybe that there's something you put in there that if there's multiple people want to run that they would host a vote for it, or encourage the turnover of leadership after every so often, maybe some things like that. But just to point out that it hasn't been a challenge yet, and so not fixing something that isn't broke.
Okay, Amy?
I want to step in and remind you, Elliot, that I stepped into this role because everybody else bailed out. So let's not forget that. Okay, I stepped up to do something because nobody else really wanted it and because the other committee members stepped away. So that's a little bit different than, I get what you're saying, but what's going to end up happening is you will alienate community members who aren't yet ready to run, but might be mentored, to be able to take over. Every great committee should be able to mentor their people to take leadership roles. And setting up a Robert's Rules of Order hierarchy at this point would defeat having community engagement. It just won't fly because people will feel alienated, like they don't have enough intelligence or they don't have enough information. They feel, kind of like not able to run. I want to build people up so they can take over.
Well, that's a question then. So far, we've only had PCEP members be chairing these committees. So I think all of this needs to be established. Is it open for community members? What's the process? Does a community member just say, I agree? I mean, I was there when you were, I think, nominated by Vadim, and we actually did vote. And it was great that, that you did step into that vacuum. And we had the vote, which is why we did that process just for you, but not for the other people. So it just seems like we don't have a consistency. Like either we're going to vote as a full board, or we're going to vote in the committees, or we're going to just let it be completely ad hoc. But we should be consistent and not say, well, for that committee, we're going to have a vote, and then for the other people, it's just
bylaws are for. We need to, I told you guys months ago, we need to sit down and do a bylaws revision so we can be legal, and then we can follow the bylaws so it's fair for everyone, and we can have a discussion around what the new bylaws are going to say when the codification takes place. This stuff is bylaws material.
So
okay.
can I say something?
Marcia, yeah.
Judith just put in here that the bylaws indicate the officers will develop meeting agendas, establish subcommittees if needed, and ensure efficiency of advisory process. And then that Amanda Marshall co-chaired the last SPMI group with Patrick. And so I think it's worth revisiting this conversation. I don't know where we're at on the agenda at this point, but it does feel like we should have a conversation of how we want the process or need the process to work given our current situation. We have a lot of new members. This is not the same committee it once was. Yeah, we've been rolling with it and going with the flow. I mean, I too, Amy, was Sam was like, you're going to be the chair. And so I stepped in, nobody else wanted it. So yeah, I mean, and I'm happy to do it, but I didn't know that community members could be chairs. So if that's the case, then absolutely, we need to definitely have a conversation about what does that mentoring process look like, and or the term and expectations, and what happens if we mentor somebody to take over and then they don't abide by the bylaws, which says that they will have the meeting. Like we have to have a different conversation maybe another time about this.
Yeah.
I think it's worth revisiting or visiting in general because it seems like we're off topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vadim has his hand up, has had his hand up. So.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I agree with what Lakayana said, and I think the general tenor there. I mean, we've had the subcommittees functioning for quite some time. I assumed everybody was voting within their own subcommittee when recently I assumed chair the settlement agreement. I checked with Anne, who's the only other person on there, about who should chair, and we had an agreement based on the fact that she became the new secretary that I would chair the subcommittee. So I assume this is being done everywhere, but in the past, Andrew was the chair, and that was by agreement as well. And it seems like the best place to have these discussions are within the subcommittee of the people that are doing the work. And to get to Marcia's point, there is a subsection in our bylaws about subcommittees which says PCCEP may divide its members, and I'm signifying members here, into subcommittees authorized to act on behalf of full PCCEP. And then whilst it goes on further to say, so while subcommittees may engage non-members, only members may vote to approve reports and recommendations to be forwarded to PCCEP. So it does sound like there's the vision that members are the ones that are making the votes and being participants on behalf of PCCEP on these subcommittees, and non-members can be on the committee as well, although to a limited extent. We can revisit those, change the bylaws, but that is kind of out there right now, and I'm not sure I've ever heard of any non-members other than the past behavioral subcommittee people that wanted to chair. That being said, we can certainly revisit the bylaws, but I think the process right now works. If there needs to be more transparency about that, I'm all for it. I'm just not sure whether this needs to be a popularity contest amongst 11, 12, 13 members of PCCEP, whatever we have right now, when some of these subcommittees have a couple of members, if that.
Okay, so what I hear people saying is that, and what I hear Vadim saying is that some of this is in the bylaws. I think what I propose doing is drafting some language that clarifies what the process is that exists as we currently have it, and reaffirming that's how we want subcommittee leadership to be decided, in other words, by the subcommittees, and that it will be done in a democratic fashion by the subcommittees.
And I think this should be beyond like just drafting something. I think we should just do like some sort of, I don't know if the retreats are only supposed to be yearly, but let's like just do a retreat, not like right now because this isn't time sensitive, but maybe like in March, when we have less things going on, because I know that's past when we'll be done with our recommendations, hopefully for the city council, or maybe even April, depends. But I think it would be helpful to just do a retreat so then we can have not only like the new members to come and we can all like be able to convene, but also discuss this and any other things for the new members, as well as the just body already.
Okay, let's move on since we spent, I think, enough time on this. And
yeah, so we'll discuss potentially doing a retreat or something to address this, but I don't think we can. We'll save it then. We can bring it back next week then maybe too. Okay, well the next item is pretty dense. Basically, we as PCCEP staff technically has to make a 5% cut similar to every other bureau or every other project bureau, I don't know, in the city. And so we were potentially discussing like what sort of things could be cut. And at that point, we actually got just more numbers than just that around like what sort of things that could be cut potentially. So I don't know I don't want to open the conversation. Well, let me just say all of the numbers. So basically the entire budget for PCCEP is $990,000. There with the 5% cut, that's I believe around. Theo, do you want to just say this? Because I feel like you'll say it much better than I will. And it's also on my head.
So the whole PCCEP budget is inclusive of the city negotiated, and I think we have an attorney somewhere on here. Yeah. So it's a part of that budget, like a large part is the COCO contract. The COCO contract makes up about $460,000. So every so we're within special appropriations. PCCEP is within special appropriations. We have to submit a program offer to the city council for approval that has a 5% projection cut. So the city negotiated the contract with Dr. Rosenbaum. So part of that contract includes travel expenses, right? So travel expenses right now for Dr. Rosenbaum is right around $60,000. So I think in the program offer that we submit that we can try to have that. So essentially, we need to cut 5%. And I want PCCEP suggestions, and I want PCCEP recommendations and PCCEP input, because this is your committee. So that equates into about $50,000. If that is if the Dr. Rosenbaum travel, if we are allowed to have that, and that's a substantial chunk of the cut that folks need to make. Also, as part of the negotiations, I wasn't here when they did that. Jared was. He might have more information on that, but mayoral liaison is included in the PCCEP. I guess the PCCEP budget, right? So the mayoral liaison is a substantial part of the PCCEP budget as well. So that's a 0.5 FTE, and I think it's about $75,000. So if we were able to have that as well into a 0.25 liaison place, we'd still get 14 hours of liaison time from the mayor's office, and that would be more than enough money to cut. And I don't know if Jared has any information on what is allowed per city agreement, or if Anita.
Yeah, I want to get all the info out there before we then take questions. So Jared said, okay, so DHA has no involvement in this. So I think, Anika, could you maybe respond to just the legality aspect of the contract with COCOL before I say one more thing and then we open it up?
And also, to be fair, the budget meetings really are just myself and PCCEP staff, Claudia, Judith, and the budget folk. So nobody's tried to micromanage this. They've asked us in earnest to make these cuts, but I wanted to bring it to you all so you have information on the budget that concerns you all. And I wanted you to know what the funds are looking like. And you can't find the written budget online. It's not posted online. In response to Barbara's question.
Anika, do you by chance know if we were to ask for the cut of the COCOL's $60,000 travel expenses, are we allowed to do that per their contract? Maybe she's not here right now, which is fine. And then the one other thing I wanted to say to that was the other part of it, the mayoral liaison, which is the $75,000, which I was unaware of, not only the amount, but also the fact that we're supposed to be having a liaison for 0.52, which is about 20 hours a week. And we don't necessarily, to really any extent, get that support from the city, the mayor's office more specifically. So it begs the question of having a conversation with the now interim liaison, Asena, who's replaced Nicole, who was the former liaison, discussing what does it mean to be a liaison, especially in this regard. I don't think it just means coming to the meetings, but I think it does have some sort of responsibility and mandate to the duties and responsibilities of PCCEP. So I also wanted to raise that. And with that, we will now go into people's thoughts and questions and concerns. So Amy, I believe your hand was first.
Yes, I have a question around what I call output versus value. I know that we're coming to the end, I think, right, of the settlement agreement. So will COCOL's involvement need to be as much, or will it be as much as it is now? Because $500,000 per year is a lot of money, I think. So I wouldn't want to, my vote is I wouldn't want to cut working with the mayor's office cutting hours. I think we need to increase hours and move them from the Cocal side into the mayor's side, since that's who we're supposed to be working with, right?
Amy, I think you make a great point. I think if PCEP is going to pay for those hours, PCEP needs to get those hours, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of trying to emphasize, as well as the fact that it also begs the question of, you know, Cocal's, I would just say, like, duty to PCEP.
Exactly.
There was potential, like, if there's the contract, if there's a potential to maybe get a local contractor, if we still need if we still need a compliance officer, and that's working under the impression of the city not being in compliance, then that would be a whole nother conversation. Okay, so a couple different things.
Real quick, one more thing, just to state this: Cocal's contract has been extended through March, so only through March, just so you all know.
Okay, that's really important to know, and thank you, Theo. And yeah, as well as what Judith said about the compliance. So, I guess Vadim.
Oh, thanks. This question is probably for Theo, but generally, if anybody knows the answers, one, whose budget are we under? Is it the mayor's office or is it under OEHR now? Special appropriation. Thanks. And how much is the budget and how many FTEs are part of that budget?
990 is the entire budget of PCEP, 460 for Dr. Rosenbaum's contract, and the rest is basically PCEP. But I want to be clear that Dr. Rosenbaum's contract was negotiated through the city. So I think that I can make a program offer with cuts to travel, because travel doesn't make sense in the projections as in my mind right now because of the restrictions that we're under. But program offers can always be like rejected and brought back.
So are the FTEs you, Claudia, Judith, and this liaison, or
myself is me and Claudia are the only two one FTEs. Judith, we have Judith. We're fortunate enough to have Judith part-time. We pay for an hour a month for Dr. Smith to meet with us, essentially, and that's it.
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Vadim. Thank you, Theo. Elliot? Oh no, Elliot.
Yeah, I just when Theo sent the budget, I was kind of shocked, and you know, if this budget is an actual PCEP budget, then I feel like we should have, as a body, have more understanding of it and control over it. And I understand that Cocal was hired before, you know, Theo got involved. But at this point, what I think we need to tell the city is we need to be involved in, if there's another person or body hired to do the job that Cocal's doing, we need to be involved in that decision, or else just don't have it be part of PCEP's budget, because it's not really under us. We're not making any decisions about it, and it's false advertising. Also, the way in which, you know, like other people have said, we've not been getting half an FTE from any of the city representatives. And so it's not clear, you know, basically PCEP is paying for those people to work for the mayor rather than to work for PCEP. And now that I'm aware of that, I'm going to make sure that that we do get that halftime from them, which is 20 hours a week. And the other thing it reminds me of is how many goddamn hours all of us are putting in on this thing for $120 a month. And, you know, like, frankly, it's disgusting to see, you know, that, you know, the Cocal officer gets $60,000 for travel expenses. I mean, really? This is a scandal from my perspective. And I'm, you know, happy to do this work, but I'm not happy to be a chump. And I feel like now that I know where the money is being spent, I feel like we're being taken advantage of.
Can I add on to that? To that point, it's also in the work that we're being asked to do. And, you know, I think one of the strengths of this committee is just that we are so outgoing and so willing to do this work. But I think then a lot of it gets placed on us to say that work is being done without any response. And I think that that's something that we need to consider as we do work, as we take on things like a truth and reconciliation committee, even as an exploratory model, or any of the other work that PCCEP does, is that we need to be aware of our worth and our work time and our workload and how it's being responded to. And I get the sense sometimes that we are, a lot is asked of us or put on our plate to give the idea that things are moving, but things really aren't, or it looks like it is because we're doing work, but then it's only benefiting the city and not the greater community. So I echo most of what you say, Elliot, just in the perspective of like us knowing our value and our work and making sure that the other players on the other side are also doing their due diligence. Just looking at who's attending this meeting, right? Like the only city staff I'm seeing here right now is the ones that are staffed to this committee. So that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, those that have been around for a while know that Elliot and I don't agree on much, but I agree 100% with Elliot on this one and what everybody else has said. It'd be nice to know what is being done with the money and how that can be used to assist all the people in this virtual room that have been putting in a lot of time of their own to get things done. So agreement with everybody. Thank you.
Jared, I don't want your comment to get lost.
Hey, everyone, thanks. I just wanted to respond to something I saw. Amy had mentioned, the settlement agreement's winding up, and then I saw Judith comment about, we need to wait. And I do want to encourage everyone to just hold off on that. I think I've mentioned it before, but, we make an independent assessment every year. And, it's if you read the court order that came out today, I think even the court's understanding that we're probably not going to be in a position to ask the court to dismiss this case. And so there may be a role for the compliance officer going forward. I don't have authority to disclose any sort of preliminary compliance assessment. That work's going on right now, but we'll file by January 25. And I just want, you all to sort of have a situational awareness that the case probably isn't going away in February. And secondarily, Mary Claire Buckley got kicked off and she hasn't been able to get back in, but I have her online and she has been listening and wanted to say something from her phone through my computer. So, Mary Claire?
Yeah, sorry folks. I don't know what happened when they froze, it went and it's continuing to circle. But I guess after listening to this conversation, I would urge the committee, before you take any action or you make any recommendations, that you talk to the city budget office, because the PCCEP, the COCO's budget is not PCCEP's budget. This is a vestige, I'm guessing it's a vestige from when this settlement agreement began, because the COCO's budget was there because the COCO was in charge of the COAP, okay? And so they put it all together. But, you have your piece, which is pay the food and the salaries and whatever. You're not going to have control over it's a matter of placement, just like the mayor's, advisor was put there, but I think you need to find out from the city, why it was put there and what constraints you have before you go off and make these kind of recommendations, because it's not like it's PCCEP's money that you can tell COCO that they're not going to get it anymore. There is a contract that exists between the city and COCO, which has been extended and will likely be extended again. As Jared just mentioned, it is not likely. I didn't get a letter on the 10th of January, so I am assuming we have not successfully completed our maintenance year. And so this will go on. The COCO will continue, you know, in its role because it's been at it 7 years, and we're not about to, you know, we're trying to get out of this, not start it again. And so the idea that, you know, if you think you can take, you know, the mayor's salary, I mean, they're posting Nicole's position, so I assume they expect to fill that. And if you think that you could take part of that salary, then the rest of that salary for that staff person has to come from someplace else. You know, it wasn't necessarily PCCEP money. It was that they put the two positions under that rubric, but they're separate entities. You have, you know, and I don't think it was ever, you know, considered to be one big budget that belongs to PCCEP that you get to decide where the money goes. It's, you know, here's a piece, you know, the COCO's contract's over here, the mayor's staff is there. I think, you know, it's fair to question, you know, why or what percentage, if you want to ask about whether it related in any way, shape, or form to the amount of time that the mayor's staff was supposed to be spending time with you. But certainly the COCO's, you know, a contract has little or nothing to do with PCCEP anymore because they no longer are charged with that responsibility. Once the PCCEP was created, the, you know, COCO no longer managed or was responsible or chaired the PCCEP, like they did with the COAP. So I just think you need a little bit more information from the city about this before you go ahead and go off thinking you can take money that's already been promised or, you know, allotted to other positions.
And then Theo, and then we have to move on after that.
Yeah, thank you all, and
thank you. By the way, Mary Claire.
I think that you all, as an autonomous body, can make whatever recommendations you want. So I want you to keep that in mind. Also, I wanted to mention that I'd be happy, and Judith mentioned it before, I'd be happy to bring in the budget folks for a meeting so that they can speak more in depth to you. I meet with the budget folks, Claudia and I, and Judith meet with the budget folks every month. So I'd be happy to invite them to the meeting of your choice and have them present to you about the budget, COCO budget, PCCEP budget, all that information. So you have all the information possible. Yeah, so just let me know if that would be useful to you all.
You were able to share with us via email this stuff, and I think the timelines to, like, I mean, I don't know when you have to make these cuts, but if they can send us like what is wrong about what we're saying we think is wrong, you know, like why is that, you know, and sort of, it seems like a simple email, and that doesn't need to be a presentation right away, or it could be a meeting, but I just don't think it can be until next month if you have to make those cuts sooner. But if you have more time, then we can wait until next month.
Go ahead, Judith.
So the budget process works that normally the budget cuts, your budget revisions are due to the mayor by the end of January or very early February. So that's, anyway, so just want to make that clear. It's just the timing.
Awesome. And thank you, Judith and Jared and everyone. We're going to move on from here, and we are requesting that we find a way to get the budget folks to meet with us. Probably then we'll have to do the January meeting, I guess, or we'll have to do another meeting outside of our normal meetings, whatever works best. Is that okay, Theo? It might honestly just have to be a separate meeting that it can be posted to our thing, but it just can't be in another meeting because we have a lot of other things to talk about.
I think that's right, and I would encourage you all to read Jared's comment that he wrote. Thanks, Jared.
Really quickly, and we probably can't harp on this any longer, but I just got an email from the attorney's office, as well as everyone else who got this email, where we're not going to be able to get that negotiation seat, and there's a very depthy reason for it, but majority of it's because they've been planning this since October, the bargaining process, and so we would have had to have gone on to the bargaining process in October. I also am aware that Lakiana presented the codification earlier, And so, Buchan, if you want to respond really quickly, I don't remember if you remember why we cut it from the codification. Is it
No,
'cause of
I
this
don't
issue?
either. I don't know why it was cut or what happened with it. I think there might have been some explanation, but it might not have been possible. But if I remember correctly, I wouldn't have exited off there. I just wanted to comment. I think that email that was sent to them, that's the type of thing I think that the steering committee should be CC'd on. If you guys can send whatever the original email ask was, and those kinds of things are helpful to keep the rest of the committee, the steering committee at least, in the loop of those. It was just my only request. And then per that, we can discuss it later, but I still think it's a reasonable request to have a person on that, in that meeting.
Okay, so
Yeah, we're gonna have to come back to that so we can make sure we talk just a little bit about the annual report. And based on the response, it's not gonna change based on how we talk about it, so it's fine to state that for now. So for the annual report, I shared a link in the beginning of the meeting, but I probably should share it now if there's any new folks in the room. But we have been working diligently on the annual report, and thanks to the support of Theo for compiling and putting this together, and Claudia for getting some of that together as well. We've had, I think it looks really cool. And I also emailed it out initially to everyone earlier today. But this is sort of new. I'm pretty sure there's not been an annual report before. There's always been a quarterly report, and this is encompassing the entire 4 quarters. And it's broken down per section. We start with the executive summary. Goes into the subcommittees, and it goes into recommendations that we passed last year, and then public meetings that we had last year, membership, which addresses the membership of the body and sort of issues around that, and then it goes into challenges overarching and more specific challenges to each topic. We might have to, there's an item about the budget in there that we put in today because of the notice of this, but we might have to omit it depending on how these things go. We might change it depending on how things go, because I don't think it's as straightforward as we wrote it, or as Elliot wrote it, I guess. But it's, no here nor there. Then the last part is the I titled it reports in the table of content, but it's really more in depth statements, reports, and directives. So it's the statements we put out on different items, including the settlement agreement, substantial compliance that was put out last year in January. As well as the court date from last year and the statement on the use of force during the summer protests. And then we also have the directives that were reviewed officially by PCCEP, but this might not be a full list of directives. I was going to actually ask the dean if there was any others that I missed out on here. It also includes the codification plan and the PCCEP success based on the Amici metrics. And then it has a get involved at the end. So I will now open it up. If you have any specific area you want to mention or any questions you have about the report as it stands now. Like I said, not done. We don't have the recommendation numbers in there yet, and we're still missing a couple things. So if you're going to comment about that, please don't, because it's not done yet.
I just wanted to add before we open it up that the process that Taji and I planned was to bring it to the steering committee, get feedback, continue to have people add edits to it, and then bring it forward to the January meeting to vote to accept this report. So that's sort of the game plan of how we would like to see this roll out.
Amy?
Yeah, I want to say great work. I did a skip through, read through it all. It looks really good. Layout looks good for now. The one thing I wanted to ask though is will there be, well, I guess we don't need large print versions since it's on a computer, but if you were to put out a printed version, would you be able to do it in a little larger print? If you're going to go handouts kind of thing. And the other is maybe adding some of the meeting links to some of our events, like some of the big events we had that we had a huge turnout for, maybe a link to that video. I think we YouTubed it, right? Or not?
I think those links are in there.
Those
under the
links
meeting.
are in there.
So they
we
are.
have the special meetings that we had, and then
Excellent.
there's still more to add though, because I made the question if we should add the subcommittees special meetings to
Yeah,
the
that's what
subcommittee
I
section
was.
or to the public meeting section. I'm
Right.
thinking it might, just because I'm a very big formatting person, so I like the fact that this is all able to fit into a concise one page for the subcommittee. I mean, we can extend it if need be, but I'm thinking what might make more sense is to add it to the special meetings, just because it wasn't necessarily like, it was a subcommittee focused on that topic, but it was meant to be pushed out as like a public meeting, like the other special meetings were. And so it'll be noted as a, like, for example, the racial equity meeting on Black women was an example of a special meeting that we had, and I hope it was recorded. And then as well as the normal meetings we had, all of the meetings, instead of doing every single one, which I thought would be too spread out, I had Claudia make playlists on YouTube, so you can see all of them if you just click that one link. So also, last point I'll say, one more thing before, and is that two subcommittees have formal mission statements put out, and I actually have not looked if there's more that I missed out on, but these, I know mine, we had one that we worked on, and then the racial equity one was put in here as well. If there are any others, and or if the other ones would like to make light 1 to 2 sentence mission statements, that is absolutely great, and we can add them. Cool. So Anne, did you have does that answer your question, Amy?
Yes, thank you. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah. Perfect. We'll add those in. Anne?
Yeah, that was part of my question. Did you want other subcommittees to put something together to put there? Also, I did notice there's one link to our excessive use of force statement. There is no link to anything there, but that's just like little things. But overall, it's fabulous. Thank you very much for all the work you have put into it, Taji and Elliot, and Theo and Claudia. It looks really great. Thank you.
I think one other thing that in doing this report that I discovered in looking at the timeline is, one, there are things missing from the timeline. Two, there are links to items which were not actually voted upon. So I think probably the best thing to do is scrap that timeline or update it, or somehow, I mean, now that Taji has put together this list, it looks like we have a full list of the recommendations, but we have to figure out some way of having a list that's easily accessible, because I know when I tried to look, it was very difficult.
Just to respond to that, earlier in the day, Claudia and Judith and I met, and we did scrap the timeline. I apologize. It was made in good faith, but it just hasn't worked, and I apologize for that. We posted a replacement. I don't know if Claudia can share your screen and pull that up, but we posted something that's a little bit more accessible. In addition to that, along with any PCCEP recommendations, I'm going to share my screen real quick after Claudia does. Okay, I'll go first. We are doing, it's just a draft for the recommendation to follow up, right? So this is what it would look like. It would go along with the existing, can you all see this? It's going to go along with the existing PCCEP recommendations. So this is a cover letter. It's just a draft. So essentially, it's recommending that the PPB and Mayor Wheeler utilize this cover letter to provide 30, 60, 90, and 120-day updates on this recommendation. So there's built-in follow-up, and that would be the best framework around tracking, because we realize as staff that it's not necessarily that the information is not there. It's that you need constant updates, and PCCEP deserves constant updates for the work that y'all are doing. Additionally, we recommend, and I said we, I understand also that I'm not a PCCEP member, so please forgive me. I said additionally, we recommend that annual updates be provided to the PCCEP and to the community regarding the ongoing implementation of approved and adopted recommendations. So that's putting the onus on the city to do this. It's just guidelines, but if they sign on that line, and they're agreeing to do this, right? And then below this is just the second page that would be the 30-day update, the 60-day update, the 90-day update, 120-day, and the annual update. So this would accompany every recommendation that's sent to PBB and or the mayor's office. And I think it would be good to have, we'd create a separate tab that would have all of these, so you could see the recommendation, the cover letter, and you can see what updates have been provided from the city, from the mayor, or from PPB. But I think you all talk about follow up a lot, and I think that's crucial. So this is a little bit more of a kind of forcing the hand of follow up, and I don't mean to be aggressive about it, of course, but I think it's important to acknowledge the work that y'all are doing. So that's what we came up with as staff. So it's not on the website or anything like that yet, but Judith and Claudia and I thought it would be good to present to y'all. So we did. So there you have it. And Claudia, can you show what's kind of pseudo replace the timeline while you all digest that information?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys a quick look at the new tab that we put on the website that is going to be solely for the recommendations that have been approved and adopted by the city. And obviously I'm still working on categorizing them from this tab where it says recommendations. But so far this is what we've put together and have on that approved recommendations tab, which are the following: adopted and approved recommendations that have been put together throughout the last 2.5 years. And I'll be adding the rest as well, just categorizing them and taking them from that old tab, like I said. But yeah, it's kind of what we put together so far. Hopefully this looks a little more clear for you guys as far as just, having that tab where you can go directly to those approved and adopted recommendations. And if you guys have
is there any way that these could be organized chronologically, or how is it organized? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, alphabetical according to the program. If you notice, everything is in alphabetical order, which makes the dates non-appear. You have to change it to where it flags date ascending order, I think.
We can't right now, so maybe we could assign each recommendation a number.
A number, yeah. Do that, yeah, 1, 2.
Oh, go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, I mean, some way that it's assigned a number, because if you just have this mess of recommendations, which is what we have now, it's very hard to actually find it. I don't see, there are no search functions on these websites that I've found useful. The other thing, Theo, I like the sort of updates, but what that's going to require, because the city has repeatedly and consistently fallen through on even responding to us, is we got to figure out a mechanism for who among us is going to check to see after 30 days, 60 days that they've actually done it. Because if we're not checking, then it's not going to work. And so far, I mean, I think that would be a good job for staff to as a regular thing on their calendar. Okay, check this.
Yeah, and we can do that. And I think the coordination with the liaison is going to be more frequent, because they're going to have more. I mean, PCCEP has really got to demand that the mayoral staff, and we can demand as staff also, that the mayor's staff invest more time into PCCEP, and we get that 0.5 FTE if we're going to pay for it. So we can certainly, as staff, follow up 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, and then the presentation can be given as updates, or just can be posted before the general meeting.
Okay, thank you, Theo and Claudia, for your ongoing work on both of these issues. And well, not issues necessarily. Well, I guess there are issues. And so that, I mean, those are things for moving forward. I just want to close out this item as the time has come for us to close. We do end at 7, not 7:30, right? Am I getting that wrong?
7.
No, yeah, okay. last thing, well, if there's no other, is there any other input on the report, by the way? Or is it just like a unanimous, it's doing good, but we'll finish it out, you know? Okay, cool. If anyone else has any thoughts, you could send them my way or send them to Elliot or whoever, and we'll vote on it, hopefully just unanimously passing it in the January body meeting. And with that, we are done for tonight, and we'll sort of see everyone at the January or subcommittee meetings. Thank you all so much for coming.
Thanks.